Good morning everyone and welcome to this week's screencast for Green Infrastructure and Sustainable Cities. Today we're going to do the introduction for this week's lecture, which is the antecedents and the future of green infrastructure. And what we'll do this week is we'll talk a lot about the terminology, the approaches to landscape planning and the ideas which helped form green infrastructure as we know it and as we've discussed over the last few weeks, and look at how these have changed over time and maybe where they're going in the future. Because I think what is true so far, and hopefully what you've picked up on, is that GI is an evolving concept and it's not grounded in any one permanent form of idea. It's something that which changes over time, and it changes over space and in different spatial areas. So again, that's things that we'll talk about this week. So we'll look at who was involved in this, how they were involved in it, why, and what sort of factors led to the creation of different terminology and different ideas behind green infrastructure, and then where and how these things differed over time and over space. So one thing that we will talk about extensively is the use of different terminology and how this changes and how these intersect with each other, and I'll explain this diagram more on Thursday. But we'll look at things like greenways, garden cities, community forestry, sustainable communities, water-sensitive urban development or low-impact development, and more recently spun cities and forest cities. And we'll also talk about nature-based solutions. And what we'll do with these ideas is look at what were the political, social, the economic and the ecological drivers behind these things, how they actually helped to shape the understanding of GI to where we are now. And this will build on some of the work we did last week in terms of identifying those three different areas, so the expansion, the consolidation, sort of diagram that I showed last week. And we'll look at whether or not these ideas are going to have a permanence in the future. Already we're seeing that GI is being sort of talked in alongside ecosystem services and nature-based solutions, and we'll talk about that on Thursday. We'll also talk about how different disciplines have been quite fundamental in structuring some of these debates, and in terms of community forestry, so the CF, England's Community Forestry Network and urban foresters in Canada have been quite influential in terms of structuring the debate about what GI is and how we should use it. Likewise, if we talk about water specialists or engineers, we can see how combined sewer overflows can be used as well. And so this notion that terminology and disciplinary understanding of them don't always see eye to eye will be quite fundamental to what we do, as is then the translation of that into practice. So how we then deliver GI and what we do with it. So overall on Thursday we'll look at where GI came from and who was involved with those ideas, what these ideas were and how they were shaping the forms of landscape planning at the time, and how these might be influential in terms of what we're doing for GI in the future. In addition to Thursday's lecture, we have the second seminar. So what I'd like to do there is think about GI in Manchester and think about what particular locations there are that are good GI, what are bad GI, and examples of how the city could be improved with more investment in landscaping, be it through more formal street trees or parks or green spaces or use of meanwhile spaces, to try and highlight the fact that for such a large and prosperous city, the way in which GI is used in Manchester is potentially weaker than other cities in the UK and particularly globally. And please have a look around the city, go outside, go and look at some GI, and come prepared with either photographs or sketches or maps or ideas of how you might see Manchester developing in the future. As usual, we're in the lecture theatre on Thursday at 10 AM, so see you all there. And if you have any questions, please do come and ask me. Okay, see you all on Thursday.